Feisty chess time, everyone. I've got my clock milestones up there. I've got them here for my own benefit, and I'm going to write these things down. I said this last time, but I mean it this time. Hopefully that's not another Riga variation. But if it is, I'm ready. I feel like last time was a special case. I also feel like I make a lot of excuses for taking 5 minutes on a move in a 15-minute game. So I'm going to try my best not to do that this time. So here we go. We've been paired with Geis. Don't know how to say that. G-I-J-S. On leechess.org. Okay, e4, e5. Maybe we'll have another Ruy Lopez. Maybe we'll go straight into the Riga variation and I'll be ready. Scotch game. Okay, it's been a while. I used to struggle against the Scotch game. Let's see if he plays the regular Scotch or the Gambit. He's going to play the Gambit. I do better against the Gambit. I go for knight f6. Yes. I don't go for the bishop c5 lines against this. Not a fan of defending the Max Lang. Okay, and the point here is I'm just going to grab that second pawn, similar to the last game. But after I play d5, the response is going to be bishop takes d5. This is a neat little tactical line here. We'll go over the details in the analysis. Here comes knight c3. I go queen to a5. There's other moves that are possible here. Now bishop to e6 blocks the diagonal. I'm going to give back another pawn. We will be castled on opposite sides just like last game. The likely move here is knight e to g5. I suppose there's other chances for white, other possibilities. Against knight e to g5, I'm going to castle queenside. Might do the same against, for instance... Okay. Let's do it. Okay. This is good. We are good on our clock. We are more than good. 5 moves out. He's going to get this pawn back. With rook takes e6, and we're even on material. The position is balanced. Actually, black's probably equalized here. After rook takes e6, you can develop the bishop to e7 or to d6. I like just this h6 move though. Keep the white bishop out of g5. Okay. Now white is the side who's thinking here. Okay. I think I can really restrict his pieces with g5. If he's planning on b4, I don't think that looks very good after knight takes b4. Maybe that's worth considering. b4, knight takes b4. I guess I don't have to go knight takes b4 there. So g5, b4, bishop takes b4. Yeah, I'm hanging on to everything, including that extra pawn. So yeah, let's start moving on the king side. Our bishop might come to g7. Okay, that's just a blunder. Unless I'm missing some discoveries, but no. No, I can just take with my bishop. And he can't recapture. Maybe he's trying to open up the queen side against my king. But most likely he just didn't realize his a-pawn was pinned. Bishop to c3 really seems to simplify and gum up the works. Yeah. It's just a powerful bishop there. Okay, we made it to 15 moves, 20 seconds off of our clock. It's amazing when you know an opening well. It's a very different equation. Okay, he's going to forego another pawn. If I should take it, that is. Where's that knight going if I play g4? h4 runs into queen h5. I think that knight is... He's got to go back to e1, which is a sad place for that knight. Okay, it's a good move. Let's not overthink it. Probably follow up with h5, just inch closer to black on the, inch closer to white's king on the king side. Once that knight is back there, maybe we go bishop takes b2, rook takes b2, queen takes a3. Oh, he's gonna... Okay, he's got g3 after, say, queen h5, but then maybe queen g5 is better. I still also got this chance to just win that pawn with... No. Unless I play h5 first. If the knight tries to go to g6, I believe I just play rook h to g1, and it's trapped there. Yeah, so let's swing our queen over here. Taking my bishop would now be a blunder. Okay. What about knight e5 here? Is that worth anything? Just go rook g8 and keep his knight shut down, I suppose. A lot of options. I like this rook, bringing this rook in. Okay, playing with all of our pieces. I suppose he has rook g6 here, but I think I can just take that rook because I've got a fork on d1. Yeah, there's more complications here than I should have looked at before playing this. Rook g6. Of course, queen h5 gets out of trouble there and maintains my threats. But let's look at rook g6, rook e8 check, queen takes, rook e1 check, queen takes e1, bishop takes e1, rook takes queen. I can sneak a pawn there with bishop takes f2 check. And then king takes f2. No, I don't need to do that. I could, yeah. Okay, recapturing on g5 with a pawn. Okay, so yeah, that stuff worked out for me. Now his knight is not in a real good place here. Okay. Let's see. 15 moves. I still have 15 minutes. That's my actual 25 moves. Coming up in a few moves. I'm going by 7 minutes. I am ahead on the clock on my opponent, so I feel like I'm playing with an extra piece for the time being. Okay, he did play queen d3. He wants to maybe get queens off the board. He's also aiming at my c-pawn, my advanced pawn there. Okay. He can force a trade of queens after this with queen f5 check, but I'm threatening rook f1, and if he does that, if he does queen f5 check, queen takes, knight takes, then I've got rook c2 has to be good. Or even knight d4. Okay. All right. I think I have to play this. No, I've also got, no. I've got one move here. That knight is pinned. I'm not a fan of that. But this is a useful move anyway. I'm not scared of queen a6. Check. Fortunately, my queen guards that knight. In a game like this, you can't calculate every variation, especially me, but you can make sure your pieces are coordinated enough. Okay. I can go rook f8 here. That doesn't seem as good as this. Yeah, having my rook watch over that fourth rank is going to be key. The queen still indirectly defends, well, sort of, c3. Yeah, let's get that queen out of my business. Makes sense. His queen is watching over a lot of useful squares there. This really shuts his knight down. Okay, got one more move to make before 7 minutes. Also guards g8. That check. Keeps hold on to my extra pawn. It's a really fine time for h5. Just to shore up those pawns on the queen side, on the king side. Okay, let's check is not all that useful. Yep, that seems to be the best move. Yeah, rook e5. Okay, I made my goal. Ooh, now can I trap his queen with rook a5? It's not really trapped. Or even just... He's not really threatening anything here. Maybe now's the time to get h5 in. h5 or rook a5. h5 seems like a waste of time with all this stuff going on. Here we go. Here's the move. Yeah, that covers a lot of squares. Okay. And I'm threatening rook e1 check. Okay, he's getting his knight back in the game. Knight b5 would be a horrible blunder here. Knight b4. It's time for h4. Tense game. All right, now I'm really looking at exchange sacrifice here. He can't go to h1. Okay. This looks quite strong. I'm already up a pawn with the queen and the knight on the board. He can't go to h1 or g2. He's got to go king f1. After that, this queen f3 check, king d1. He can interpose his queen. I could grab another pawn. Let's get feisty with it. Let's just do it. Can't calculate everything. Also looking at knight d4 here. Knight d4 or queen f3 check. He can play queen d3 if knight d4. Let's get his king to the center. Do I have perpetual here if I want it? Can I repeat? Let's just grab that pawn. Got a lot of threats against his king. Down on time. Let's see, 3 minutes. I was supposed to get 35 moves by 3 minutes. So, anyway, we've got to play quickly at this point. But we've done best on our time of any game so far. Wants to trade down. Let's not cooperate with that. We can grab some more pawns, I think. Let's do that. Yeah, I might be okay in an ending here, but not really keen on that. Goes king d1, then I think I've got my chance for knight d4. But then there's lots of checks. Lots of checks. Ooh, I'm winning the rook. I just win the rook here. Yeah. Let's just grab the rook. Okay. All right, the feistiness paid off. Going for that unknown exchange sacrifice. I'm very happy about that. Of course, I got a pawn for it, and I was already up a pawn. But really put the ball in white's court as far as who's going to make the mistakes from that point. So let's start from the beginning. And use the analysis board. Let's turn off the engine for now. Scotch game and the Scotch Gambit, yeah. It's also known as the center gambit. You can get to it by a variety of move orders. So you could get to it from the Italian game with an early d4. So right here, instead of playing d4, you can play bishop c4. And with the two knights, knight f6, you could play d4. Same gambit. We reach the same position. And after e takes d4, white castles. If I recall, I think e5 is a little more testing than castles immediately because I'm able to simplify. And I'm up 2 pawns. My plan is not to hang on to them. That's when you get into trouble here. My plan is just to get my pieces developed, give back the material, and have a good position as black. Okay, yes, black does have a good position, but a lot happened that we forgot to explain. So let me go back. This opening I think is exciting. So So after white castles here, as in the game, I took on e4. I can't hang on to those pawns. My knight is in danger here, but it's not really a big threat. If the bishop moves away now, I'll just play bishop e7 and be up a pawn. So the best move for white is bishop takes d5. Now queen takes d5. Now we're up a pawn and a piece, but white has this awesome move, knight to c3. What's cool is not only is our knight on e4 pinned, our pawn on d4 is pinned as well, so that knight can't be taken, and it's forking both of those pieces. So the queen can run to either, typically to h5 or a5. Looks like a5, like where I went, has become more popular. Now, white could take with the rook, but he's going to have to move his knight eventually. White can also take the pawn that threatens his knight and just pick up that knight later, it seems. However, after here and here, black can play f5, and black is actually better here. He's more or less up a piece, although there's still some complications. This looks pretty crushing with either rook takes or queen takes, but I skipped something important there. Knight takes e4 is a huge blunder because that's a mate in one on e1. So now white's knight is pinned. So black is doing fine in this line, and if he can simplify a little bit, he's got ideas of queen to c5 or bishop to c5, for instance. He'll be doing fine. More than fine. He should be winning. So it's better if white does as he did in the game. This is the main line. Now we've got these discoveries threatened on the e-file. And bishop e7 is one way to stop these discoveries. But that gets pretty tricky for black after bishop to g5. If we play f6, there's sacrifices white can make. Piece for 2 pawns and opening up the black king. It's pretty hairy stuff. It's not outright losing for black, but it's not the kind of stuff most players want to get into. Bishop e6 is the main move, and white can bring either knight here. Usually they bring the e knight to unleash this rook. So then we're just giving up our second pawn that we'd won by castling, and after the trades, white doesn't really have anything better than to take this rook. My move h6 just keeps a bishop or a knight out of g5 and delays the development of my bishop until later. One natural move in here, one more thing worth showing, is bishop to f4. That looks like a good spot to develop white's bishop. It's aiming at black's king over here. But it runs into one of these long-range lateral queen moves that are difficult to see, queen to f5, which forks the bishop and the rook. White doesn't lose a whole piece because he can give up the exchange instead on c6. And then after saving the bishop, black is doing fine here. He's just an exchange up. His pawns are a little torn up in front of his king, but that shouldn't be a big deal given white's pawns haven't made any headway in opening up things in the center. Actually, we could even just play d3 here. So yeah, this is the center gambit, or as we played it out of the Scotch opening in this game, the Scotch Gambit with knight f6, the main line. Kind of fun, really worth knowing, and actually I would have gotten into a lot of trouble, and this comes up a lot more often than you think. You play e4, e5, a lot of people play the Scotch Gambit or the center gambit with the Italian game move order. So this stuff is worth knowing, and it's fun, and it's also scored me a lot of points, or saved me a lot of half points at least. Okay. I wonder what the computer thinks of this position. This is kind of the stem position here. It likes white a little better. It's closer to even after a couple seconds. It likes bishop d6 as well, but h6 is plenty good. Yeah, white actually recovered pretty well after this mistake. Bishop c3, queen d5. Centralize the queen, win some time on that rook. Rook e2, and then queen a2. Huh, that's very computer stuff. Bishop a1. Well, after rook b1, it really likes black. It still likes queen d5 the best. Bishop takes b2, rook takes b2, h5. Just saying, where's your compensation? This does allow me to hold on. If playing bishop takes b2 allows me to hold on to my strong central pawn instead of it becoming a bit of an awkward pawn on c3. Still here, maybe? Rook h e8. It likes my move. Yeah, rook takes e8. Now bishop takes, d takes. We're following computer lines here. Rook b3 goes queen d3 instead. Queen d2. Oh, that's a nice shot. Any endgames here are favorable to me, but especially where I get a pawn on the second rank. So queen d2. Looks like an interesting line. It does give up that pawn on g4, which seems a critical pawn. But black shouldn't even take that pawn. What happens if he does? Queen takes c2. And now my c3 pawn is a beast. Queen f5, huh? Anyway, I'm up 2 pawns and got one that's close to promotion. The white king is a little less secure than mine. So queen d2 would be good. Wait, no, I'm not up 2 pawns. I'm up 1 pawn, but that c3 pawn is a monster. Queen f6. I didn't even think about it as covers the knight, but that is really key here, because after queen g5, I got nothing other than b6. But still, that move is a mistake according to the computer. Going from -1-5 to -2-4. a5, rook e5, okay. Queen c4, knight d4. Ooh, that's a dastardly move. Huh. Protecting the c-pawn, the c3 pawn with a fork on e2, and obviously the knight is untakeable because rook d1 check, and I'm getting the queen. So, interesting. Ooh, this is a little passive. I still got my pawn advantage, but a little more. Bad move allows the king to come to more safety without making any real progress. One move threat, but really loses white some time. Rook likes rook d5 to meet the check with rook d8 maybe. Okay, likes this as well. Knight d4. Knight d4 is interesting. My queen does watch over d8. I'm trying to simplify here and to cover some squares that the queen could run to on, say, rook a5. Okay. Doesn't like the knight retreat. Okay, rook e4. Rook e4. What's the idea there? Just covering c4 so the knight doesn't get there. I wonder what the computer thinks of this. Alright, still good, still sound. Loses a little bit of advantage, but in a practical sense, poses white a lot more tricky problems. So in a practical sense, I think this is the right decision. Computer might want to hang on to that material a little longer, but at the expense of a complex position where I am down on time, and that's a big disadvantage the computer is not taking into account. So this is all forced. Notice the king can't come to g2 or h1 because queen f3 will win that rook with check, actually. So the king has to come to the aid of the rook, go to d1. Yeah, and then queen f1. If the king goes to the second rank, I start chowing down on pawns with check. So queen f1 is the best shot. I'm going to chow down on pawns anyway. Okay, I'm losing some of my advantage. And it's nice that my king has this sanctuary on b7, and my king is protecting my knight at that point. Yeah. So I can afford to get off that diagonal. But the computer likes queen e4 check, immediately picking up the a pawn. I didn't see that until later. And it actually keeps an eye on that valuable c2 pawn that white has. So, knight b4. It's a definite computer move. I'd maybe go king here, and then maybe think about queen a6 and going into this ending, which should be doable with this knight versus rook, with these monster pawns on the queen side just versus one pawn. But I thought I'll keep some threats alive here. Taking here is just as good, practically speaking. It likes queen f4, queen f2, maybe the same. No, queen f4. See why queen f4 here would be better. But why can't I just take here? It's a draw. Rook d7. Ah. Queen b1. I've got nothing to defend c7. King f2. Queen b2 check. Out here. Oh, that allows me to skewer. I just went outright. Okay. So yeah. Pardon me. Queen f4 hits c7. And since the rook can come to attack that, I don't have a good defense to that. This makes that c2 pawn. It's a nice little drawing trap. King e2. Queen g2. King e1. King c8. King c8 does not seem intuitive. What about king b7? It's a draw because of the f2 thing. Okay, king c8 is the way to defend against rook d7. Ugh. Crazy looking stuff. Now, what about this? Now king b7. Okay. Gets me a little safer. I'm glad white went for queen f2. That allowed me this fork, and I got to win not just one of the pawns, the A and H pawns, but both of them. Surprised he didn't go for queen e3 here. Oh, I see. Then I have taking c2 with check. Despite that queen and rook, I've got a nice little fortress over here on the queen side. So I'm free to continue making threats against white's king. He went there to avoid me taking that pawn with check. And I take this pawn. And I don't know that the check is the best move, but just keeping the checks coming is useful sometimes. The computer wants me to just start rolling already with a5. But keeping the pressure up can be useful and cause him to blunder with king to g2. King f2 likes queen d3. After queen d3, I gotta imagine I'm just gonna exchange. I mean, this has got to be simple and winning. Oh no, he's gonna win that c pawn. Maybe this is the way to exchange. Queen e6, I'm not sure what that move is even doing. Yeah. Queen d3 might have been better, but he's down so many pawns at this point. It's a tough one. I mean, he was still in this. He was still in this right up to that blunder at the end. He wanted to get his king to the corner where it felt safer, I suppose. Where he could interpose his queen again. What about king f2? Is that also... Let me look at things before looking at the computer. I promise I didn't look at that. I can trade queens, but that triples my pawns. It's probably not the right idea. I could go knight here. Is that an idea? I need to know with the computer. Yeah, it is. Queen d3. Oh, this is better for black because I can just take these, or yeah, I should take that. Yeah. What about rook d3? Oh, that just pins his own rook. Knight b4. It's over. So we needed either queen d3 or king f2 there, although This looks pretty crushing. The computer's has queen f4. I've got to check. Queen f7, king g2. I could go for this. Queen takes. Yeah, g takes f3 check. And now knight takes here. Or just c5. Make him get passive to defend that. Wow. That knight just dominates things. Black's best is this. a5. Why not just taking? Rook takes f3. Oh, he's going to win both pawns then. So if a5, rook takes c3, or we're at least hanging on to that f3 pawn. And just slowly get our king into the game, and this a pawn, coupled with its b pawn, is going to decide matters. Now we're just ready to roll. And there's nothing to be done here. You just... Yeah, okay. Winning endgame. When those extra pawns are healthy passers and the king can't get to them, that's when a knight can be really effective against a rook in an endgame. When there's extra pawns and they are pass pawns and white's king, the opponent's king, is not able to get to them. In the case of the game, we got a blunder. And okay. Since that's this is game 9 or 10, I believe. It's the first game since game 1 where I won on the board. So this is encouraging. I've won some other games, but they've been clock swindles, basically, which is, as I've said before, a win's a win, but there's a definite difference psychologically. It definitely feels better to win on the board. So thank you for the game. Gijs, G-I-J-S. That was a very entertaining game, very eventful game, and a feisty game. So I'll see y'all next time.